Right, so it's an evening time and I'm going to talk to you about waste exemptions. So if you are after a loading shovel like this is my new one. I've got an old one for sale. Same loader as that with a toe tip bucket. But what I want to speak to you about tonight is the waste exemption. So as you'll know, if you're in the waste industry, we've had an email saying that waste exemptions will be removed. Because that's a noisy scrapyard next door, isn't it? Big old place. So the waste exemptions will be removed. I'm not sure the exact date off the top of my head, but that's the name of the game. So what that means is, if you are a waste company or anybody who deals in waste or anything else, you will not be able to have a skip, for instance, full of waste in your yard. Never mind tip anything. So you'll be able to do nothing with waste in your yard going forward if you're a waste company, if you don't have a permit. And I've got mixed feelings about it. So obviously we've got small companies around the place that deal with waste, and they run little skip companies and they do it on exemptions. It's gonna basically close them down. The Environment Agency will be within the rights to go to the yard and they could say, well, it's our own waste, and because it's actually from a waste company, you can't do it. So what would an exemption really be for? So if you need a waste exemption, what they're saying is, let's say for instance you are a farmer and you muck out pig poo all day, for instance, just use that as an example, and you need a skip on your site to deal with all the pig shit. You can put that pig shit into the skip and it can go. If you are a joiner and you have a joinery workshop and you produce some waste wood, that is what it will be for. So it makes a lot of sense. But for companies like ours, skip companies, me personally, I store all my wood outside on a waste exemption. So that means I will not be able to store any wood outside once the rules come out. So we've spoke to the Environment Agency, and what we're going to do is we're going to extend that building this way over the trommel, and we're going to come right across here with it and down there. So basically I'm going to extend that building out so it's in line with the front of this wood bay there. A bit hard to see because I'm walking around the yard late at night. We're going to extend that out of there, down there, across here, and it'll all be covered. So a massive job. Also over Christmas we've got our waste tipping shed there and the roof is knackered on it, so we're going to fully reclad that. Environment Agency come down and asked us to do it, so that is what it is. So but going back to these new rules, like for instance pops, you know, there's a settee there, look, that has to go into a separate skip now and everything else. But by the rules, following the rules, you could put the settee into a skip and put that pops in that settee into this skip, but then this skip can't be outside. So the rules are quite, you might think, crazy, but it's not crazy because it stops people opening little companies up and then basically running a skip company on an exemption. And I suppose the Environment Agency can come to our site whenever they want and can check your flooring, your drainage, your rat prob, you know, everything. So on your management plan you have, you know, a pest control, you have fire control, you have water management, waste management, you have something for your fuel to store your fuel in, everything else. If you don't have a permit, you can just do anything you want. Basically, if you ain't got a permit now, you can just open a skip company up, put a 40 yarder in your yard, tip it on the floor, put it into the 40 yarder, and as long as the Environment Agency don't turn up whilst you're doing it, basically, you know, it's very difficult to prove. So I think for the skip companies like all of us who are paying, well, not all of us, I don't know if you've got a permit or not, because I've got mixed feelings on it. So this is from the side of the thingy, you know, they're not going to be able to do it. And for skip companies like us who pay £4,000–5,000 a year in permit fees, diesel fees in these and everything else, in a way it's a good thing for companies that are doing it legally, I would have said. However, the other side of it is, so a friend of mine, he does tyres, he's a tyre recycler, and the Environment Agency have said to him, you cannot do tyres under a waste exemption anymore. So he said, well, I only deal in tyres, I don't do anything else, nothing else, just tyres. They've gone through the consultation with him and they've said no, you can't do it. There's also a couple of lads where I live who've got skip companies, they have 1 or 2 skips, you know, 20, 30, 50 skips, and they will not be able to run their company either from any kind of yard. So the Environment Agency are forcing people to get a permit. Like I say, I've got mixed feelings, because I think in the long run it'll work out better, because we're all on an even playing field and everybody, you know, is entitled to make a fair day's money for a fair day's work. You know, if all us with permits are paying another 200 quid a week just for your permit fee, I mean, you know, and our insurance liability insurance on a company like this is colossal, I will tell you that. But you know, it gives you two roads of thought. You know, my mate who does tyres is a real good lad, and you know, I don't want to see him fail his business because he physically can't afford to do a permit, because you've got people out there who do tyres and they drive around picking up for naught. You've got people who maybe have a wood burner and stuff like that, something biggish, and they shred a bit of wood. They won't be able to do it either. So it's going to affect a lot of people, thousands of people. And what I wonder is, will the Environment Agency be able to, you know, keep track of all these sites? Because you think every company that makes waste, that is a waste company, it's going to be some old carry-on. It's going to be, you know, a big jump in, you know, a big jump in staff they're going to need. I mean, the other thing is also, skips are pretty quiet at the minute. I mean, we usually run obviously we've got a fleet of Arctics, but we usually run a dozen skip trucks, you know, a few transits, you know, and we're running less vehicles than ever at the minute, which is part of the job. So yeah, I've got a loaded shovel for sale. I just thought this would be a good little video, because I've been discussing with the Environment Agency about exemptions, because like I say, they want us to build a big building over that wood pile. So you know, it's ideal, because they said some people don't even know that it's changing. So it's yeah, if you're running a skip company or a waste company, you've got problems, especially if you've got problems like neighbours. If you're annoying your neighbours and you're on an exemption and you're getting away with it, the first day that exemption gets cancelled, you will be in the chopping block. So it's a good time to, I suppose, to think about getting a permit. I mean, I know a little bit about that. I'm not an expert, but if you want to get any advice, I'm happy to speak to you and point you in the right direction. It's better to be legal, I suppose. And you know, like I say, my friend's got there's a couple of kids with skip companies, and there's a couple of guys who do tyres, you know, and I know it's going to have a massive effect on them, and it's worrying. But what can I do? I don't make the rules. I have sort of said to the Environment Agency, look, you know, it'll cause more trouble potentially with fly tipping and everything else than it's maybe worth. But you know, people a lot more intelligent than me make the rules, and to be fair, usually, you know, they're right. I'm just a skip man who sort of skips out the legislation side of it. I don't do. We have a person here who does all the legislation and sorts everything out. So if you do need a bit of advice, I can easily give you some, pass you on to them. But yeah, I hope you all have a real nice Christmas, and you know, we are all in business next year, because it is difficult, and it's a difficult time to be potentially changing permitting rules. I mean, a permit realistically will cost you, let's say for instance, £5 or £6 grand to apply, maybe 10 if you have a consultation fee. Your fire management plan, pretty complex stuff nowadays. You know, you might need a water interceptor. There's a lot that goes into it. So you might be 15 or 20 grand to get a permit if you're lucky, and then you might have another 5 or 10 grand, you know, to do the work. So you know, the permit might cost you, say, 10 or 15 grand. Permit fees £5 grand, £5 grand for your consultation. You could be 40, 50 grand into it. You know, and if it's a small company, a really small company, like my guy who has the tyre place, well, how does he have a chance when he's going to have to pay 50 grand up front? You know, or some of these other guys will do skips, and they might only do 2 skips a day for, you know, they might not even turn over the amount of money it would cost to get a permit. So it's going to be tricky to see how it works. But at the same time, I think it'll be handy that it will make an even playing field. But there's other way to think about it, that the people who are already started and the people that are already operating have got an advantage over the smaller people. And I do like an even playing field, if I'm honest. So listen, give me your thoughts, what you think about it, and if you knew about it. So every waste company will have their waste exemption removed, don't matter who you are. I've argued, I've cried, I've jumped up and down, and our environmental person, they are very good. They're pretty fair, the people who come round. You know, if you look after your site and keep it neat and tidy, you get no problems, and go along with legislation and play the game. That is the main thing. So I will see you all later, and like I say, if you have got any thoughts on this permitting thing, give me a shout, and I'll put it in another video and we'll have a talk about it. I'll see you soon. Bye.